Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Flags in a Gym, a podcast dedicated to all things color guard. My name is Eric. I'm your host and resident color guard nerd. And for today's episode, I had the chance to sit down with Chris Tanner and Matt Thompson from Digital Performance Gear, more commonly known as DPG. We talked about how floors, flags, and uniforms are made, what it's like working with big-name winter guards and drum corps, how digital floors came to be, keeping show designs a secret, and more. So sit back, relax, and let's talk some color guard. Hey guys, how are you?
Doing good.
All right. Well, I am here with two people from the team at Digital Performance Gear, more commonly known as DPG, as you all may know. And I have to tell you, I've been very interested to talk to you all because I am fascinated by the whole like digital floor flag part of our sport and how it all works. Like, you know, those episodes of how it's made that were always on like the Sci-Fi Channel or whatever. I'm obsessed with those kinds of things. So I was very excited to talk to you all when you were like, yeah, we'll talk. I'm like, yes, like this, the nerd in me is like, this is going to be exciting. So we are sitting down with Chris Tanner and Matt Thompson, right?
Yep.
From DPG. So why don't you guys take a second to introduce yourselves to everybody, give your little background to yourself. Chris, I'll have you go first.
Sure. Yeah. I am a marching arts nerd through and through. I was born into the activity, so much so that I was actually induced early because my dad had finals tickets. No joke. Wish I was joking about that. My drum corps world experience started in 1999 with the Americanos, the old DCM days in your old cavies time frame. So 99 to 02, I marched Americanos in the cymbal line and bass line. And then from 2003 until 2007 was a member of the Colt cymbal line, and then got to be a part of the guard world through my wife, Jennifer Tanner. She was the director with her best friend, and I was the, hey, make sure we show up on time person for their winter guard up until 2013. So the swimmers, the synchronized swimmers show was us back in that time frame, and then entered back into the marching world through DPG about 2 years ago, out of a 10 plus year hiatus into corporate USA.
Excellent. And this synchronized swimmer show, did they do a special like little news thing on one of the members? I think she had like a disability. I think I remember seeing that like WGI did a little, I don't want to call it like a blur, but it was like a little video expose on her.
Yes, our one of the most fabulous members, Anna, I think her last name now is Teets. She was the best thing ever. When you see someone like that come to a color guard tryout, and we immediately said, yep, let's go. So she had, I think it was one or two fingers on one hand and two or three on the other, and it stopped about halfway through her forearm. And we were able to have her on the flag line for 3 years, and she was a senior in that show, and just one of the most loveliest people you'll ever meet.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Matt, how about you?
Oh, this might take a while. So I was born into a drum corps family, and by that I mean my parents met at the Pride of Cincinnati Drum Corps, I guess in their second year of existence. My dad comes from a long line of doing drum corps, started at like age 7 in the Cleveland Buckeyes, and then ended up aging out at Madison in 76. And then he stayed around and taught, went to Pride of Cincinnati, and that's where he met my mom, who had been marching there and in Cincinnati at, I don't remember the other drum corps' name, but my first drum corps experience was maybe April Camp 1987, and I was born in March. So I was less than a month old the first time I stood in front of the horn line. My dad was the brass arranger at Glassman from like 85 through 2000. My mom taught the color guard there in the 90s. I don't remember the exact years, but like late 90s. I started marching at the Spirit of Atlanta in 2000. I was 13. I went in and filled a hole. I spent 2005 marching in the color guard at Madison Scouts. And then 2001, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8, I was a member of the brass line at Phantom Regiment. On the color guard side of things, I've been around Winter Guard literally my entire life. I was at MIPA Championships at about a week and a half old, something like that. And my first WGI, I'm positive, was probably 1987 or 88, somewhere around there. I started marching at Juxtaposition in 2001, and I marched there were 2 years I took off, but I marched at Juxtaposition. It's the only winter guard I ever marched until 2011. So I was in that color guard from an independent A class color guard to an open class finalist to a world class finalist color.
We might have competed against each other. Did you march 2004
Yep.
in San Diego? Yep, I marched Apex that year. So
Okay, yeah.
I think we're back to back on the DVD.
I haven't even seen the DVD in so long, I couldn't even tell you, but
It's right there. I'll go find it. I'll send it to you. I'm like, you can find yourself on there. What made you do color guard for that one random year where you were brass line, brass line, brass line, then you did Madison's guard, and then
it was an opportunity to try something new for me. I had always, I mean, I had been doing color guard for multiple years in the winter, but I had never done the outdoor thing because, well, my high school marching band was like a show band, so we didn't really have color guard, unless you count, the girls doing push spins going down the field or whatever, slams.
that was my high school too. So, I don't judge.
Yeah. But yeah, it was an opportunity to try something new, and I tried it, and I learned that I really don't like spinning outside. I much prefer flags in a gym.
Yes, inside, absolutely. That's why I'm so jealous of DCI with having finals at Indy now. And it's just like the guards and even the chorus. I mean, as you well know, they can do so much more because you don't have to stress about wind at finals.
Oh, yeah.
Especially 2001, I marched DCI and I marched with Kiwanis Cavaliers at the time. Finals were in Buffalo.
Yep.
And 40-mile-an-hour winds like all day. And we went on at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon when it's super windy. And I'm supposed to be standing on a prop spinning a gun. And my work had me throwing a 6. I got to Buffalo and I threw a double and almost dropped it because it flew so far away from me that I almost fell off the prop trying to catch it. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. So yeah, very happy Indy. Guard is best inside. I love outdoor guard, but I'm a ginger. I have freckles. It's just like me and the sun do not mix. So I'm a winter guy. So you do work with digital performance gear, and we're going to start with what your specific roles are within the company before we get into kind of everything you do, because lots of questions here. So Matt, what's your role within the company?
So I'm an account rep or a sales rep, whatever you would want to call it. So basically my position is working with clients to figure out what it is that they want to do, can afford to do, which products are best for them, and help them get their orders placed and pushed all the way through to production so that they hopefully have their stuff on time. There's sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's more so a product of when we get started with projects. But that's my goal is from the get-go to kind of make sure the process goes nice and smooth, and that on the ordering side of things that they're not really having to worry about it. I kind of take pride in trying to make sure that my customers don't have to worry about that stuff.
Excellent. How about you, Chris?
The marketing department sits and is talking to you now. So marketing manager of the company, really goal there is promoting DPG. What are we doing? How are we doing it? What can we do for you? Trying to bring those opportunities to Matt and the sales team, but then also being a little bit of our public relations side too when we get to our sponsorship side, finding out what groups are looking for things, what groups can DPG and their group kind of merge together that we can be of benefit to each other. And then in the end, grand scheme of things, how can DPG be a benefit to everyone that's trying to do the marching arts, not the best of the best and not the newest of the newest? How can I get to both sides of that spectrum in saying this is achievable and doable for all of us? Because that's really, as much as it sounds crazy, that's the best part of my job, is we can actually do everything for everyone. So for me, my difficulty is always trying to pinpoint and find that special medium to meet so that I'm not forgetting either side of the equation.
Right. Yeah. You don't want the smaller groups to feel alienated. Like, oh, they only work with, the big names, they're not going to work with me. It's like, no, we will.
Yeah. I mean, last year, DCI, we had blue coats and we had listentors. So we will, and
lots in between.
Yeah, and
And
lots in between, and it is awesome. And we'll talk about it here in a bit, I'm sure. At WGI, our goal is to see every one of our clients by someone representing DPG. So wherever it is, our goal is that we've seen you and we've tried to give you some type of social media presence to say we were there. And we get it about 90% of the time because of that crazy scheduling. But that goes back to my job. Matt can attest. We had about 3 weeks of calls of where to send people, how to do it, and we've got an awesome team to be able to do it. And man, it's hard work, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it makes it so much fun too. Like when we're getting to like actually get in front of the kids who really love those products that they're using. Like it's I don't know. This for me, this is like a dream job, really.
that's great. Yeah, I would love a color guard job, but didn't happen for me, so I do this. So let's do a quick overview of DPG before we dig into everything. So it's currently based out of Texas, right? Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
But it was originated in North Carolina.
So there's yeah so DPG and ABI slash Winterguard Tarps were two separate companies at one point. DPG was started by somebody else, was completely separately run, and ABI slash Winterguard Tarps merged with DPG in 2018. And by sometime early 2020, late 2019, all operations had been moved to Texas.
Okay, so ABI was already affiliated with Winterguard Tarps. Gotcha. Okay, so that's how you became part of ABI. Because I was looking, ABI does also large printing, but they seem to do like non-marching art stuff, like like you'd see like company billboards or maybe like big tents for like a big event or something like that. So DPG is just for the marching arts, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're always looking at different ways to reach different people. I would say it's mostly for scholastic stuff because we do some stuff for the local, wrestling boosters or band boosters or stuff like that. So it's not all just marching arts, but I'd say 99% of what DPG does is marching arts. And like me as a sales rep, I strictly work for DPG, but if there's some product that we sell at ABI and one of my schools wants to purchase that product, I have free reign to sell it.
Yep.
But we do separate the two companies. So like ABI started, I want to say 93, 94
Okay.
on there. And at the time, they were a kind of just a print shop. And the owner, he found out about these new billboard machines, like they were called airbrush machines, and he bought one. How they made billboards was this gigantic airbrush machine that looks like a giant printer. And eventually they worked their way up to have like, I think it was like 12 or 16 of those printers running in their shop. And at that point, they kind of became the king of billboards in the country. And then, they specialized for a while in like trade show graphics and stuff like that as well. But I want to say it was they did some printing for schools, like the local high schools and whatnot, getting floors in like 2010, 11, 12 in there. And I want to say it was 2013 or 2014. I think Damon said it was 2014. They went to WGI and relaunched ADI as Winterguard Tarps. They started with just doing tarps, and that's why they called it Winterguard Tarps. And then they started doing all the other things, and that's where the idea came to, uniforms are our next step. Let's look at a possible merger with a strictly uniform company, and that's kind of how it all came together to be DPG.
Yeah, and it's
That's
still the same owners to this day. Still the owners of all of it. And really the genesis of even Winterguard Tarps is their granddaughter was in the Woodlands band. And they went to a Winter Guard contest and they saw the backside that said injury lawyer, call 1-800, and said, wait, we do that side. Why can't we do the other side? And that's kind of what got the ball rolling to then reach out to some designers in the Houston area and say, we're willing to try to do this for you. We want to test it. And then, as you saw, 2010 was kind of that beginning of the launch of, wow, you must have a lot of money because you have a printed tarp and you didn't have to paint it.
yeah. I remember the days of, yeah, when people would get old billboards and tape them together and make their floors, and yet they fold them, like you said, injury lawyer or like a McDonald's ad or something. It's
Yep.
wild, it's just, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You're a billboard, you're the billboard king, and then like, hey, wait a minute. They're using the billboard material for this. We can get one step ahead of the game here.
One more fun fact,
Yeah.
any Shiner Bach truck that you see wrapped in the country, we do that.
Oh,
So all
cool.
your truck wrappings and stuff too. So Shiner Bach, any 18-wheeler you see on any highway in America is a ABI wrapped truck.
Also, fun fact, any Shen Yun billboard that you may have seen like 2 years back and before, we were probably doing them.
And we see those a lot. They're always in this area. Like we've got, because with the Kennedy Center and then you've got the George Mason Performing Arts area. I think it's Eagle Bank Arena or whatever now. They're always here. We always get in those mailers for the Shen Yun.
There you go. Full circle. Full circle right there for you.
So you said about 2010, we started, we see the influx of digital floors, right? I mean, I remember there was a local school that got one. They said they paid like $4,000 for it. And I'm like, my God, like where do you get the money for a digital floor? And this is when we were all painting them, right? You have the paint weekend where you open up the floor and hope there's no holes in it and you don't ruin the gym floor underneath. And then now here we are, everybody has a digital floor for the most part. When floors started to take off, was that when you were like, okay, we need to start adding more products? Like, okay, so we've got the floors down. Let's tackle the flags, or let's tackle, hey, they're all using props too. How did that whole kind of start to evolve?
So I wasn't there when it happened, but I know they kind of started with all vinyl products. And then as they already had the ability to print certain fabrics because of the trade show industry. And so my understanding is kind of once they got the vinyl stuff and they knew, hey, we got this, then it was like, all right, we're going to start doing these other products, fabric props. And then they got into flags. And then once they got really comfortable doing some flags, I think that's kind of when they made that acquisition. I came slightly after that acquisition. So everything that all these stories, this is all pre me, but I hear it from everybody because I mean, like Christopher said, these people they've all been there through it. So the people kind of above us, they were there during all these times. So we've heard the stories.
How big is the team at DPG? Like, because I know you have a very, very large warehouse space in Houston. And then you have, talking to Chris beforehand, I've learned that not everybody is in Houston, but are most of the employees based in Texas?
All but two of us are in Texas. As Matt, I can see him counting them on his fingers.
Yeah, he's going through everybody in his head. He's counting on his fingers.
Yeah. So we've got a full art department, a pre-production department that's basically just making sure colors are matching, making sure the print files are all ready, and then a large scale team that's out there both on our sewing team, which we'll call outsourced. It's kind of family oriented within some of our production team too. So I know our production team fluctuates with our season a little bit, as well as the sewing. Matt, did you get the final numbers in your finger count there?
I know for sure there's 13 of us that work in the office, but kind of counting through it, I think we're close to about 30 if you include the sewing team, and probably about 22 to 24 depending on the season without the sewing team.
And are you continuing to grow? Or are we kind of holding steady at the moment?
Continuing to grow, trying to meet where people are taking this activity next. There's a lot of things that will get brought to us that are really neat ideas that we can help along with. We might not be able to do the final product yet, but we can allow them to begin their thought process.
And you said all the team is based in Houston outside of two people. So all the sales reps and everything are within the Houston area. And you clearly work year round because you have DCI and then you go right into like BOA fall season. And then right behind that is WGI season, and not just color guard, you have percussion and winds as well. Yeah. Would you say the biggest demand is color guard?
Ooh, that is,
Yeah,
I would say it's transitioning to fall bands as a whole. I would think, Matt, and then we jump into just that winter floor season is massive. What did we end up like about 1,500 last year?
I think it was
1,500 floors.
about 1,200 or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's all inclusive, right? Not,
Right.
local.
Color guard, percussion, winds.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And then definitely that fall band season. I know we're seeing a large influx this year in the fall band season too. In all categories, uniforms, flags, props, vinyls, tarps, other crazy ideas that are coming. Like it's all over the place and it's really cool.
Yeah, we used to, like when I started, there used to be pretty definitive breaks in between each season where we'd have a major lull in anything really going on, except maybe like the art team's already starting on some projects. That seemingly is going away more and more every year. Like we will be busy from, I mean, I work with a lot of the drum corps that we work with, and specifically like we did Crossman's uniforms, and that was a big project for us, and I work with them on that, and so like all of my slow time was spent doing all the drum corps stuff, and then it was like as I was finishing all the drum corps, here comes the flood of all the fall marching bands, and we're always pushing in winter to like start earlier because if you want your floor on time, that's really the only way is start earlier. So it's the more we push start earlier, there goes that little gap of time of, a lull that we used to have. But it's impressive for me to see the growth that we've had, especially coming out of COVID. I was with the company through COVID and like that first year, it was, I mean, it was slow. There were a lot of days where we were just like, hey, let's research the next vacation we want to go on because what else to do? And then seeing how it's picked up and even like how production has changed since we came out of COVID till now, and seeing the amount that we're doing is, I mean, it blows my mind, honestly, the amount of product that we are putting out there, and it's pretty cool.
I mean, you just blew my mind by saying over 1,200 floors for indoor, and that's just floors. I mean, we're not talking flags, uniforms, props. It's just floors. That's wild.
Yeah,
I
we can
mean,
do about 8 a day, and we might be able to increase that this winter.
No, I think last year we were running closer to an average of 10 a day.
Okay, yeah. He's on site. I'm outside, so I'll take Matt's all day, every day.
Yeah,
still,
we
you're
have,
talking 1,200. I mean, and you do a 10 a day. That's 120 days to get those all done. And
yeah,
that's when you're actually like printing them.
yeah, that's just print time. And I mean, there's some days where they might be able to print 15 in a day because the guy just stays till midnight or whatever and just runs the press. And I mean, our press is running 20 hours a day, 7 days a week for at least 8 weeks straight in the winter.
Wow.
And
Yeah, they're still there right now. As we're talking right now, the presses are still running for the start of fall orders right now, and we're already running and gunning.
yeah, there's been a crew there every night till about 10 or 11 transferring prints from paper to fabric every night so that it's ready to cut the next morning.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Sounds like you need to expand the team and maybe get some more machines in there. But I mean, because you only have a finite amount of space.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah.
Some things coming this winter.
The problem is space, and you need space for those machines. So we're kind of, I don't want to say landlocked with what we can do because there are some other options we could go to, but there's only so many machines we can put in the building we have.
Right. No, I completely understand. So with you working year round, so what are just some of the notable groups that you worked with this year, like for drum corps? Like I know you did Blue Coats, right? You worked with Blue Coats, Crossman, any other DCI corps that you've worked with this season?
Yeah, so this season we have blue coats. So their tarps, their flags, kind of their entire digital scenery. We were able to help out with that, and super cool, really innovative, fun stuff to be a part of. Phantom Regiment, the what's been known on the drum corps planets and the Reddits of the world as the curtains. All of the curtains or the props. It's a power mesh fabric is what that is. So we go back to our indoor outdoor. There's the thought process there. That was a really cool thing to work on. sideline that, our entire sales team has regiment in their backgrounds. So that was really cool to be a part of that and have our 3 sales reps all, get to help the home team a little bit, with our sales manager actually being Dan Farrell, the old program coordinator for so many years at Phantom Regiment. So him being able to take lead on that is really a cool thing to see. He'll never admit it. He doesn't want to be the face of the company if you've ever met him. One of the nicest humans there is, but that little sparkle in his eye when he can help the home team out.
Oh, of
Um,
course, absolutely.
yeah, Crossman, everything that's not an instrument, Crossman this year, and Blue Knights, their flags, the tarps they have on the floor or the field, and then the royal blue flyover that they use in their ballad. That is our world class teams. On open class, we have Spartans with their props, Gold with their flags and props, Arsenal, who's coming out, I think, tomorrow as we're recording, their flags, Les Stentors again, helping them out with their flags, and 7th Regiment, their props, and a handful of all age groups, White Sabers, Sunrisers, and Northern Lights, all flags on that side from a DCI perspective. So a lot of groups out there with a lot of product and a high variety of it too.
That's great. I do want to talk about DCI just because it is such a short season. And, kind of when you compare it to indoor, we know season that's, we say it rushes by, but you start in November and we go until April. Like that's a long season. With DCI, when do the corps like start their process with you all? Like when do they say, hey, here's what we're doing. We need, 200 of these. Like when does that whole thing start?
So I'll start kind of on the back side of that, and then I'll transition because we almost have two relationships with drum corps on that level. If it's a sponsorship side, and even if it's not a sponsorship side, I will kind of help start that process sometimes a couple of days after finals of the year before. Where we're getting ready and saying, what worked, what didn't work, how can we collaborate more on the marketing side, both for our purposes and their purposes. Those kind of conversations go from the end of August all the way until about April timeframe. And then that's where kind of, I'll call it, the corporate to corporate communication goes. And then we have the second relationship, which is Matt and the designers and Matt and that team, and go into that one there.
Yeah. When do they reach out to you, Matt? And when does that whole thing start?
It depends on the group. Like Bluecoats, I'm in contact with Michael Rayford all year long. So like that relationship never really stops. The other drum corps, I mean, once they kind of solidify and they know what they're doing, especially like Crossman, for example, because we do their uniforms head to toe, color guard, drumline, brass, all that. They usually start a little earlier than everyone else because uniforms are a longer production time. We have to go through sampling time. We have to get the prints right. Sometimes we have to create, like this year for them, we created that angled jacket that they're wearing, and some of the stuff that they did with the color guard aren't cuts that we already had, so we had to create them or adjust things to make it.
Right.
So that process with them starts pretty early. They probably,
Yeah, I think it was December this year, maybe even November a little bit.
Oh,
yeah, I think
wow.
we were reaching out in November, I think, to like kind of set up a good timeline and schedule so they knew what we needed from them to be successful. And then I think it was December at Midwest when we got the first sketch of what they were looking to do. And then, they're still going back and forth on stuff. And then it was probably early February, late January when we got it kind of got a finalized direction. Yes, this is what we're looking to do. And everyone else, if they're not doing uniforms, sometimes we don't even hear from them until they're ready to place their order for flags or till they're ready to start that order for props, especially if they've been with us and they kind of know the process. It's a new team at Blue Knights with the color guard this year, so they kind of reached out a little earlier to kind of get that process started and understand what our process was. But kind of once they've worked with us, the process doesn't change from year to year. So I see them push as late as we can, as late as we can, wait till we can make that decision. Okay, go. And I would say it's never early enough.
Yeah, I know some people that work kind of like in the costuming side, like like creative costuming or dance sophisticates in those kind of worlds, and they say the same thing. It's just like it's never you can never send it in too early. Like just get it in as quickly as you can. Do you have to sign any kind of NDA or anything like that because you're getting this design information pretty early, and I know they don't want that information out there, or is it just kind of a professional understanding of you're not going to say anything, obviously it's all internal, or do they take it like a more extreme step?
So many times we kind of include that in our talks and contracts. I wouldn't say that there's a formal document, but there's definitely a an out, of if you do something that's detrimental to each other's brands, that'll be the end of our relationship. So not an NDA per se, but definitely there's if it's not a sponsored group, a very heavy understanding. If it's a sponsored group, we will have it in lesser words that basically say you won't do anything to disparage us and we won't do disparage you, and at the end of the story we all know that that's an NDA otherwise.
Right. Yeah, I was just curious because I mean, like, cores are so secretive now. I mean, they don't, we got to release the video, the big show announcement. So everything's hush hush until then. So I was just curious, like, because you all have to start all this stuff way beforehand. So it's like, what do they make you do knowing that you have that information?
It is a very needs to know basis, even within the organization of DPG. There's things that we may or may not know at the individual's level, even when it comes to some of them, just because not that we're worried that anybody's going to do something, because one of the cool things about us is we are our sales force, myself, are band nerds at heart and band backups. Our art department has, I think, one member that had a band experience. Two, Matt? One or two? Pre-production, no band experience. Production, no band experience. Half the art team, band experience is limited. So they don't even know, sometimes of the secretive. So we kind of want to also make sure that they don't accidentally do something because they're not thinking in our band world of shh, you can't tell until the first show. So even some of those we know keep it away from so and so. And it's not a negative to them. It's just sometimes we just don't know.
Yeah, yeah, they don't understand the secrecy of the activity of you got to
Yeah.
keep it hush hush until we're ready.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's kind of a general understanding, kind of across the industry that, like, even without an NDA, I don't think there's any other company out there that would be talking about what such and such core is doing unless it's internal meetings about it. Because we all you just kind of know. Even with the independent winter guards, they're all hush hush about their shows until like the morning that they're going to premiere. So I
And then
think
they
it's,
all come out and do the same song.
yeah.
They all come out and do Hope. It's just like
The truth. It's all truth. Juxta
oh.
part of that, Matt. You got to let that one go. This
It's just like it's so funny how I find it so funny. Everybody's so secretive, and then you had like 14 guards come out all using the same song, and I'm just like, how does this happen? Like,
Right. And it's one of those too. We get that. I know I get it even too. And on the marketing side, when someone's reaching out and there'll be a customer that's asking for quotes, and we'll see what the show is or the idea or the something behind it. And then we don't get that business, and that's totally okay. But you're even looking at that and being like, I know I can't even say anything else to anyone else in my circle because I don't want something to go away. And then they're going, well, the only people who know about it is DPG and whoever we went to get it done. So there's that. It's super secretive. And then I think we even internalize that secretivity and go, is that even a word? I just made one up. So there you go. But we even keep it internally. We're like, there's times where I'm like, Matt, this person reached out to me. I'm not going to tell you what they're doing, but can you give me a quote on this size floor? But I'm not going to send it to you yet until we know.
A lot of my friends are like, man, you've got a really cool job. You get to see everyone's stuff before everyone gets to see it. And I got a couple friends that continually ask, hey, did you get Juxta's floor yet? Hey, did you get Pride's floor yet? Can I see? I'm like, no. I mean, no, I don't have it, but also no, you can't see it.
That would be me. I would totally be me. Like, hey, like I want to know. I want to know. Like when Florida premiere comes around, I'm scouring YouTube for anybody I can find. Like I'm that person. What is your so we were kind of touched on this earlier. So what is the downtime like between the seasons, if any? I know you said it's kind of getting shorter and shorter and shorter, but do you normally have a little bit of downtime? Like I think Chris, you were telling me that when we were trying to schedule the recording, you're like, we're getting all the stuff for like blue coats and crossmen pushed out, give us like 2 weeks and then we can talk. So it's like, have we kind of hit like a little mini break point now that all the core stuff is out? No.
The break was really before we got probably the month leading into WGI, although we, have some special things that we do at WGI that we have to get ready for and all that stuff. But as far as like orders go, I like that month leading into and through WGI, I would say is the break time, but we still have stuff that's getting pushed into production in that time, not big orders or maybe a couple of uniforms on the groups that are really ahead, and bravo to those teams. But yeah, I mean, that's really our only like true break time these days.
Wow, it's just the WGI season like April, late March, early April.
Yeah, and it's different people, I'm really busy in that period where it's slow for everyone else because of the couple drum corps that I service. So, that takes up a little bit more of my time. It's pretty busy year round nowadays.
I mean, that's great for you all. I mean, I know we all love downtime, but it's great for business, right?
I'm in sales. If it's slow, I'm not making any money.
That's
So
true. That's true. So you all offer a lot of products. Obviously, you do floors, flags, uniforms, the well-known items. Are there any products that maybe not as well known that you all provide or can provide?
Coroplast. A lot of people don't realize like Coroplast yard signs and like corrugated plastic. We can do all those. We do Spirit of Atlanta last year, all those like creature things. We did all of those, and it's corrugated plastic. It's rigid material that can be printed on, and it's hard to do when you're like having to ship it across the country. But like if you can come and pick it up, we have a lot of clients that use Coroplast. We also print on like plexiglass and stuff like that. Like
Backlit.
like the ATM machines that you'll find in like a CVS
Mm-hmm.
top, there's like a little green lit bar that says ATM and maybe like a logo that's lit up on the side. We did it.
Oh, cool.
A lot. I mean, most of them we've probably done. Until recently, we were doing a ton of those. I mean, we can print directly on like sheets of metal, foam core. So a lot of different rigid substrates. As far as everything else, I mean, sticky back vinyl, adhesive vinyl, we can print on that. I think we can still do wallpaper on one of our machines. I can't think of anything else.
Well, and then of course, like the truck wraps, the sticky back going back on that is truck wraps for bands that aren't, they may be thinking of a fast signs or something like that. We can color match that, and that's been a couple of things. They want it color matched to their 6-year-old band uniforms, and we can, if you send us a band uniform, and that's one of the cool things, we can do it for, any fabrics that you want, and it will change the color, of course. But one of the things that we do as a part of our programs is if you have to, the trend, of course, nowadays is the one uniform, one season. But sometimes high school, you have to maybe order the school colors, or you can only get one band uniform every 15 years. Well, if your band has increased in size by 30 members and you only ordered 30 jackets, and now these jackets are 10 years old and have been in the sun and the mud and the dirt and the whatever, if you send us your jacket, we will color match so that you don't have half brand new Kelly green and half 10-year-old Kelly green. Everyone will look the exact same as they enter the field to like the 98th percentile that you can in
Wow.
that. So I know that that's not a new product, but it's an interesting thing that we can do that people might not think about, that any fabric will color match you as best we can. You want your truck to be the same color as your turf? Sweet, we got you. Send us a blown up picture of your turf and we got you.
So obviously, this is a color guard podcast, but you obviously do work with percussion and winds units. Are there any things that you make specific to them? Like obviously flags. I know we do see flags sometimes in winds and drumline, but for the most part, flags are a color guard thing. So like for percussion wise and winds wise, is there any products you do that are specifically targeted for those performance groups?
I wouldn't say specifically, other than like we noticed the trend of like there just being clearly different sizes with when it comes to floors of what percussion groups use versus color guard groups. Because the percussion groups, they've got that front ensemble up there, and so they usually cut off part of the floor. But other than that, I mean, I don't think there's any. I mean, we have different uniform cuts that are specifically meant for winds and percussion versus color guard, but I mean, we have color guard people that use winds and percussion uniforms all the time because that's what fits the look of their show. So I wouldn't say there's anything specific.
Maybe anything for like the instruments. Like I know sometimes like with the wraps on the drums or anything like that. Or I'm
Yeah,
not a percussion person, so I could be speaking completely wrong. So
Yeah, bell covers would be one. You're thinking about maybe those college bands or some of those high school bands that may spell like tigers on their tubas or something like that. Yeah, we can do that. We don't get into the drum covers just because it's so intricate with the different models or the styles, but we are, building those relationships up. We had a good relationship this year with the Pearl and Adams team. So maybe some things that we can do with those guys and continue on, but right now we don't have the technical aptitude to be able to maybe do what, an on-to percussion does. We can help them out if they want any help, but it's not something that we would feel comfortable doing just because there's so much intricacy. They've nailed it. Onto is dynamite. Go them.
and do you ever like partner collaborate with some of the major uniform manufacturers like, for J. Miller, DeMoulin, Band Shop, or, do you ever kind of partner with them sometimes, on little projects, or we just stay in the DPG lane?
Mostly stay in the DPG lane. We have relationships with them. Everybody's super kind and awesome when we're at trade shows. We tend to be around each other and we giving each other hugs. I know at WGI we were, inviting the Fred J. Miller team to we had drumstick parties at the end of every WGI night, which was literally we would sit around and eat drumsticks after a 14-hour day, the ice cream cones. And we made sure to invite the FJM team if they were around, or the synced up team if they were around, or something like that. So there's cool camaraderie, but in terms of collaborations, not a ton of that right now. But man, the positivity from company to company is really cool to see.
like every once in a while, like if there's something we do that one of those companies doesn't, they've definitely referred business our way in the past as well. And I would say it's probably reciprocal both ways. If there was truly something that we couldn't do, we've referred business off before. And there's not a lot we can't do, but there are a few things that we just don't do, especially when it comes to uniforms. And so we don't work together, but we'll help each other out when we can.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. I'd be like, I can't do it, but you know what? You can call this person. They're great at it. No, I completely understand that. I'm in the construction world for my 9 to 5. So yeah, it's just like people call us like, no, we don't do that, but you can call this company right here. They're great at it. So we talked about this briefly earlier, but starting to see the digital floors appear here and there, probably early 2000s. I want to say it's probably for me, I started seeing around 2005, 2006 when like the first ones really started to pop up. And we said, that was a sign you had money. It's like, whoa, you guys went all in on this floor. You're going to spend $5,000 on a floor for one season. But now practically everybody uses them with the increased demand for these floors and them being easier. Do you think that we're getting to the point where it's all we're going to be using is just digital floors?
I don't think we'll ever see the full destruction of the painted floor era. It's mostly gone, but when you're buying a 13-ounce floor, if you treat it well, it's going to last a couple of years. And maybe you're only buying a floor for your varsity guard every year, but then you're using that for your JV, or you're selling it off to somebody I still see when I go to shows here, I still see painted floors, mostly in the JV classes, but I don't feel like it'll ever completely go away because there is something about like a truly painted floor. It's completely matte and there's no glare on it whatsoever if you use matte paint. I don't think it's an art form that is going to completely leave us. I definitely think the technological advances in printing have made it far easier and far more cost effective for people to justify the yearly purchase of a floor. I know like when I started we had three presses that each were printing like 5 floors a day. And that's if they weren't broken down. So we definitely weren't averaging 15 floors a day, but like at their best they were printing like 5 floors a day. Now we have one press that if we really ran it at super high speed, we could probably do 15 floors a day, 24 hours a day. But, just having these machines that work better just make it way easier for costs to be in a zone that more people can afford it. And definitely, I think having options like we have 3 different options that we can print floors on as far as weight of material. So like, hey, you're a small guard and you don't need a big old 13-ounce 50 by 70 floor. Okay, well, let's do a 9-ounce 40 by 60, and that's perfect for your size. And the cost is also way lower. You know, I think definitely people having options like a 9-ounce floor, which is pretty lightweight, but it works for a lot of small teams. It's made it more accessible to people. And you think back to the days when we were painting our floors, how much time and energy did it take to get that floor looking the way it looked? And was the effect of the floor anywhere close to what you can get out of a printed floor? No, not really.
No.
Sometimes there were those ones that would just wow you. Like I remember seeing Kennesaw Mountain's floor in 2005 when they were in open class and they had the clouds painted on the floor. They won open class that year. And I thought it was digitally printed. It was painted.
Wow.
And it's like kind of glow to it almost because of the way it was painted. I thought it was printed. I never would have known. But I learned years later, my wife was in that show, that all those floors were painted. And so I think there's something that a painted floor, it can be effective in the same way as a printed floor, but not everybody is quite as talented of a painter as some of the others in the industry. Where from a print standpoint, if you're not a talented painter, your print's going to look just as good as the person who is a talented painter. So get your bang for your buck by getting yourself a printed floor.
Absolutely. I was teaching in the painted floor era. We could not afford a digital floor because they were 5-6 grand at that time. And we did an intricate floor, and I had an art student, and she was like, "Okay, so we're going to tape the floor into a grid." And she took the design and put the grid on the sheet of paper, and she went to each square and drew in the design, and then said, "Okay, now you guys." And we just painted by numbers the whole thing, and it took so long to do. And everybody's like, "Oh, the floor looks great." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm never doing this again. Never, never doing this again." How crazy is go time for floors? I mean, you said you did over almost 1,200 or over 1,200 last year. Was that probably your biggest so far?
I mean, it's the biggest since I've been here, which that was end of 2019. And I think that 1,200 number probably encompasses the full year. So, some of
Oh,
it,
okay.
I'm not positive, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty busy. Like when it's go time for floors, it's like once we hit November, it's we are sending out 20, 30, 40 mini floors a day for color approval for weeks on end. And we start with a 6-day production time from the time it goes to press, and within weeks, we're up to 3, 4 weeks sometimes. We really try to keep it at 3, but when we get as busy as we are, we've seen it push into 4. One year it even pushed into 5 just because everyone kind of waited till the wrong time to order their floor.
I do want to talk about the actual manufacturing process because this I am fascinated by. Like I mentioned, the how it's made. And if I lived in Texas, I'd be like, can I tour, please? Can I have a tour? So how is the floor made? Because back we're going referencing the old billboard days. Like you got pieces of billboard and you would literally tape them together. That's why you'd have like the 4 or 5 different ads on the back. Like, is it still done that way, or is it just a full one sheet process?
So we print on 16-foot wide rolls of vinyl. They come in different sizes. Every company has something a little bit different, but whatever fits on their press. Ours is I think they call it a 5 meter machine, so it fits a 16-foot wide roll of vinyl. So we print each panel. If you're looking at your 50 by 70, we print, the vertical panels going this way on the floor, and each roll of vinyl fits just about a 50 by 70. So if you're a 60 by 90 or 70 by 100, your floor is actually multiple rolls of vinyl. So we print each panel one after another. They have a program that they take the full image and it breaks it up into even panels. And like, we don't limit our clients to 50 by 70, 60 by 90. You can do whatever you want by whatever you want. So that program, it just evenly splits the panels instead of always being like 15 foot and then you get like a small one on the edge. They just evenly break up the panels. So they print it, and then we have a big table that they'll roll those out on, and they print in, I don't remember which order, whether it's right to left or left to right, but based on how our seaming table and our seaming machine is set up, and the way they have to pull it across, they'll print whichever way makes it so they're in the right order. And they roll out the rolls, cut out each panel, continue rolling them out on top of each other. And then once they've got them all cut and trimmed to the right size, they'll do probably like 10 floors at a time, where they'll roll out all 10 floors, trim each panel one at a time. Once they're done rolling them out, then they'll start seaming those floors, and they'll just pull the top panel over and align the seam that was furthest away on the seaming machine, and then pull the second panel and align their images on the seaming machine. And so we have this machine. I don't remember what it's called. It has some fancy name, but I call it the seamer because that's what I think it's called, a heat welder. But it's, I think, 100 foot long or 90 foot long, and it has this, I don't know what you call it, like a rolling track, and then a head that comes down from it. And on that head comes out like almost like a straw that is kind of like L shaped. And that little L fits under one piece of vinyl and on top of the other piece of vinyl. They hit the button, and mind you, there's like 3 or 4 guys there lining up the image, holding everything in place and using these big magnets to hold everything down. And then they start that machine, and it runs under and over the vinyl. And then behind it, it has a roller that presses the hot melted vinyl together, and it dries in like 3 seconds.
That's fascinating.
We literally melt them together.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's cool. So you do it vertically. For some reason I thought it would be done horizontally. But they're vertical panels. That's cool.
We have had ones where we've done them horizontally. It really most of the time it comes out to like best use of material. But I'd say probably 95% of the floors we do, it ends up being a vertical seam, because that's how usually that left to right comes pretty close to 5 15-foot panels if you go across it that way. And then from there, we never get to look at the floor ever as one big floor, because as it seams and then they pull it over onto the floor. They have a whole big, like, they mop it every day, seaming area where they pull the floor, and they literally, as it's being seamed, it folds onto itself. So they're having a QC everything while they're cutting everything out, and then every once in a while they'll stop because hey, this panel's got a mistake, we got to reprint this panel, and they'll get it in there before they seam it. And then they seam and pull it over to the folding zone, and like I said, they start with like 10 floors, and they'll seam and fold one whole floor to where it's like flat, probably about 10 foot wide or so on the ground, something like that. And then they'll put the next one on it, seam them all over. And then they take that kind of wide layer of floor and they fold it in, and then roll it up onto a pallet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So they seam and fold. Because I was going to ask, like, how do you fold them and get them ready for shipping? Because, as we know, winter guard, folding the floor is the most dramatic thing anybody will ever do. So it's like, how do you're printing these floors? Like, how do you get them folded all up?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to watch them work back there. I know I'm such a nerd. Like, the day I started, the day I interviewed, they took me on a tour, and I was just like, wow, watching them like do the whole process and watching the floor print line by line. And I watched these guys that some of these guys have been there with us for 10, 15 years, seaming and folding floors. And like the one guy that works for us, the company that makes our heat welder, they call and like we'll bring him out to train other people how to use it, because he knows how to use it so well. I watch them do this, and I mean, they're as precision as they can be. Is every floor going to be perfect and everything perfectly lined up? No, because there's got to be some margin of error when you're talking about a gigantic print. But I mean, they're trying to get it within a half inch when you're dealing with 15-foot wide by like 50 and 60-foot long panels, a half inch is pretty gosh darn good.
Yeah, and I would be just like you. I'd be like, I would sit there and just watch. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, you guys should do like some sort of like a video tour, like, and post it on your socials. Like, this is how it's made, and keep it all like secretive, like they do on the TV show. Like, just be like, you want to know how a floor is made? Here it is. And like record it now, and then after WGI, you can release it, so you're not releasing somebody's,
The accidental release of a floor, right?
right. It's like, oh, so that's who's doing that.
I didn't know they were coming back out.
How are the other products printed, like flags and uniforms? Like, how are those printed?
So each one's a little different. Uniforms start on a different machine that it prints directly on paper. So, it goes through the whole art process. The art team makes everything fit on the patterns that we have, grades everything out correctly. They print it all on paper. They send that paper over to a transfer machine where it transfers to any number of fabrics that we print on. We don't just print on standard Lycra, but whatever the fabric is, they transfer that. And there's different heat settings. So like depending on which fabric it is, they know like we have to start with this fabric in the morning, then go to this fabric because the machine gets hotter throughout the day. So like I know that our like structured band uniform look, we call it the emergence uniform. They always transfer those at the end of the day because they need the machine to be at its hottest. So like that whole side of production where they figure out when they can do what fabrics blows my mind. But they, print on paper, transfer to fabric, and then from there, those go to cut, go to sew, QC along the way somewhere in there. Flags were a little different than the other, not maybe not everyone, but we actually print directly on the fabric. So where a lot of other companies do the two-step process where they print on paper and then transfer it to fabric, we have a direct print sublimation machine. So we're putting the ink directly on the fabric and it goes right into a heater for the ink molecules to sublimate into the fabric, where that process for uniforms goes paper, fabric into a heater for that to happen. Just two different processes, but like stretch wear, I mean, I'm sure you might be able to direct print on stretch wear, but the amount of time that it would take for us to figure that out, not worth it when we're already good at the transfer product. Whereas we've been direct printing on flags for the whole time I've worked here. So that's a process we're used to. And it's different from everyone else. And there are quirks to it. Some things work better direct print than they do transfer. Some things work better transfer than they do direct print. So, we just try to be upfront with our customers about things that will work and won't work so that in the end they're getting a product that they're happy with. There's nothing worse than opening the box and going, oh.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, I thought this would look different. Like, awesome. Okay, so I do want to do a quick walkthrough of ordering process through you all. So I'm a guard director and I want to get a floor and some flags for my upcoming season. Where do I start? Who do I talk to first?
So in this situation, let's just say it would be me. You'd reach out if you don't know how to contact us. We on our website there's a contact page, or you call our office and somebody will direct you to a sales rep. Depending on what school you work with, there might already be reps assigned to it, but for the sake of hey, let's pretend it's a new school and there's no rep assigned to it. I would take you or another rep would take you, and we'd kind of just walk through the important details first. Like I got to know who you are and what school it is and the information about that school so I can get an account set up. From there, when it comes to ordering multiple products in the winter, I always tell people let's start with the floor because that's the most important thing that you need first. And then my process for winter is I always encourage people to start with your floor. And if you're doing uniforms with us, let's start that kind of side by side with it because uniforms have a longer production, but you definitely need your floor first for staging purposes. So like floor, if you came to us, say you came to us and you have an idea of what you're looking for, but you need a graphic artist to put it together, you'd kind of work with me to get that idea into writing, whether that's you provide me with, a write-up of your show and some like inspiration images or whatever. Or some people come to us with like perfectly sketched out hand-drawn sketches. I want exactly this. I need an artist to digitize it. And then I work with our art team to make that happen. We also have people that come to us with their perfectly done, ready to go print files because they work with, an outside artist who knows how to set everything up in Adobe. And so that process is it's the same process, but it happens a little faster because you don't have to wait for somebody to create something from scratch. Kind of the same thing with flags or uniforms, that process doesn't really change per product. The one thing that changes is like the production need or the actual production time. Like I said, floors, people generally need them sooner. They're a relatively quick production, but you need them a lot sooner than you need your uniforms and flags because you probably don't need those till January. But somebody's staging your show in November, maybe. We have some people starting staging in late October and they want their show floor. So, yeah, I mean, that process doesn't really change. And then you work with a sales rep. If you're doing art with us, you're going to work through revisions because everyone sees things different. We do have a lot of different artists, and we try to assign things to like an artist who can get it done quick because they don't have a ton on their plate. And most specifically, if we come across a project that our art manager knows, like, man, that's right up this person's alley, they're going to try to send it to them because they know like we're probably going to be the most successful. And working with some of these people that we've worked with in our art team for a long time, our art managers kind of learned like who she should send what projects. They just kind of fit in their lane of they would be really good at putting that together. And we have some people that come to us with an idea and that's it, and they want the full package. And then we have a lot of people that come to us with, I just need to order flags. Here are my flag designs. I need this many, this many, this many, go. And everywhere in between we work with.
The last one is Shutterstock. We have a deal with Shutterstock, whereas if you find images within Shutterstock and any product that you want, we have certain amount of licenses per month. That's like we're never going to touch that. Everyone could use Shutterstock so that you don't have to have necessarily full art fees for design. And you can say, I want Shutterstock image 1, 2, 3, 4 as my floor, and we can take that. You don't have to pay Shutterstock for that art. You don't have to do that. We have that license. We'll take care of that. And Shutterstock image 1, 2, 3, 4 is now your floor on a 50 by 70 with a grid. We got you. And then you want 5, 6, 7, 8 to be your flag. We got you. Do you want it in standard, oversized, swing? How do you want it? Cool. We'll put that image on there. You want your uniform to be 1211? We got you. There's your uniform. And you can save money that way and save some time in that you don't have to worry about purchasing. It's like the music rights idea, right? They want you to go through Click and Clear for WGI. It's $25. It keeps their life easy. Not everybody wants to do that. We have that set up with Shutterstock to be able to help you out and make that a little bit faster, where we maybe don't have those revisions, and you can we'll plaster those images on what you want, send you those approvals, and off it to the races we go. And you got what you want at a discount.
When I have clients that just don't have any vision in mind, I don't really like sending that over to the art team with zero direction. So I'll just ask them to go browse Shutterstock for anything that you find. They send us anything you find that you like, that you feel like fits your show in some way. Because then I know, okay, if they really like those images, we could probably actually use those images. Even if it's, hey, we're using them as part of the design, we have that resource to pull literally from millions and millions of stock images so that we know we're at least on a closer track to what that client wants up front. We get a lot of people that come to us with pretty clear visions, but we get a decent amount that maybe they're first-time directors or first-time designers, and they just need some help putting their thoughts into art form. Those are the ones that kind of tend to be a little fun for me because I've been around this activity so long. I like to help them kind of find what works for them. That's what I like about my job, is getting to work with people on their projects. Makes it fun.
Yeah, I can see how it could be not so fun if somebody says, "Okay, here's my image. I need 15 of this flag, 10 of this flag. Here's my floor. Thank you, done." You're like, oh, you're just like an order taker at that point,
Yeah.
where you don't get to be involved in the process. What would you say the kind of the standard lead time is? Like, if I wanted a floor and maybe two sets of flags, and with no major hiccups, standard, maybe a couple revisions, how long would you say that would take, roughly?
So start to finish, from like you're just starting your art to that floor's in your hand, probably with a couple revisions, 4 to 5 weeks. Could be faster, but I always like to err on the side of it being a little longer, just so that you know what you're getting up front. And I'd rather surprise you with your floor a little bit early.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Early Christmas present. Oh, our floor came.
And the time of the year depends. Like right now, we promise floors in 2 weeks, but when we get to winter season, it's actually like a floating schedule. So it starts at 6 business days, and as we fill up our 10 slots a day, it can grow to up to 4 weeks on a floor. So I mean, some days it'll go from 3 to 4 weeks in a matter of 2 days, because we're putting that much stuff in production. Flags is usually a little more stable, about a 2 week production, 3 week production if it's fall, because when you're doing all the big swing flags and whatnot, they just take longer to print. So in the fall, we generally say 3 weeks for flags in production plus art time, which could be a week to 2 weeks usually. So you're in kind of that 4 to 5 week time range. And then in the winter, it's usually about a week faster. And we kind of pride ourselves as a company that we're going to tell you this time, and more than likely, your stuff is going to ship a couple days before the date that we tell you. Rarely these days are we shipping stuff on the date we tell you. It's usually out the door at least a day or two ahead. I would say, with the exception to probably like 4 weeks of the year, where we're just, if we told you that date, that's the date it will ship.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing flags for outdoor with all those Texas bands that have like 60, 70 kids in the color guard. And oh, we're doing double swing flags, so we need 150 flags.
Yeah, and we're doing a huge, gigantic swing flag for movement one and double swing flags for movement three, because we only have 8 hours a week.
That's right. I learned about that. The UIL, like they can only rehearse 8 hours. That was fascinating when I learned that.
Because bands do so much swing flag.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So what can I do? What are the best things I could do as a customer just to make the process as smooth as possible?
Start early.
Golden rule, start early.
Well, we try to entice that a little bit too. Now I'm the marketing guy. I'm coming in. We try to entice that with a little bit extra of a discount for multiple products. In winter, if you come in before December 15th, you get 10% off if you order two product sets. So your floor and flags just got 10% discount off of both grand total. And 10% of a floor is huge. That's a massive cost saving. Same thing with fall, summer, fall, we'll call, June 15th. Come before that, 10% to try to entice you to come a little early. Because anytime during the year, you get a discount for ordering multiple. You get your 5% no matter what. But we do try to enhance that. So definitely come early. Number two is come with some sort of idea, no matter what that is, because we've seen it too many times of the I'm doing XYZ show. And we're going, we have 20 pre-designs that can all fit that. Are these what you're looking for? And then we get a no. And we're like, okay, now we're 5 days into this already, and we have not gone any steps further. So some type of an idea, and then really, what is your end result or goal idea? And it doesn't mean competitively, but what are you trying to achieve for the students? Is there a purpose to get the $80 flag, or is the $27 flag going to take care of it for you? We can drive you down that line to help A, save you money, but B, make sure that your students and yourself are set up for the most success. Is there a purpose to have a 100 by 75 yard full football tarp? And a couple times clients have told us yes. And then we're like, that's going to be really heavy to pick up. You can't do that. And they say, no, that's what we want. And then they get it and they're like, how on earth are we going to pick this up? And we're like,
I told
We
you.
tried to tell you.
I to let you know that you should probably order like 10 smaller tarps. And they're like, no, we want 2. And it's like, oh no. This is so that's really the best way is kind of be prepared is probably the best way to say it.
Be prepared. Yes. So, just a fun little question I had. So, what are some of your favorite projects that you've worked on? You don't have to name names or anything, but just like anything that was maybe really different or unique or just stood out to you.
So the coolest one from my side of the fence, and Matt does the ordering side for it, so I have to give him kudos to make sure it happens every year. But we are lucky enough to be able to do the entirety of anything that you see in UD Arena or any of the World Championship WGI facilities, as well as the regionals. Anything that you see that sets the stage, so those giant backgrounds with the WGI World Championships, the logo, the black curtains, all of that, that's a part of our relationship with WGI to be able to set that up. So, you yourself, you've performed in front of the giant curtain or the whatever, and you get that, oh my gosh, I'm at finals feeling. We do that for DCI as well. So at Lucas Oil, that backdrop, that welcome to Drum Corps International Championships, Indianapolis, all of that, we are able to produce all of that for them as well. And then both at WGI and DCI, we give that fans the view and the feeling of, okay, this is championships. This is the real deal. But what a lot of people may or may not know is we do some of these for WGI, we're the ones that actually do it. Like WGI doesn't pay for it. We say we want to do this and help them is the tunnel banners. Setting that stage that says, here you go, you're going down this giant tunnel that's not very fun to go up and down, especially at the percussion championships. But we want you to feel like it's this amazing environment with these hype phrases or these, ideas, or really for those A-class guards, we honestly have like 2 days of meetings that is, if you've never been in the tunnel, what would you want to take a picture of? What do you want as 15th place in A class? And you're never going to go down that tunnel again. How are you going to do it? And we do that as well for DCI. There's a giant banner, welcome the world's greatest performers as you're about to step onto the field at Lucas Oil, kind of behind that tunnel they enter. We're able to do that for the performers. So we've set it out for the fans. We've set it up for flow marching to be successful and for everything that way. Like, that's super cool to see. But then to see the photos that were tagged on behind the scenes, and you can be like, all these people giving the thumbs up. Last year, what was it, Matt? It's your time to make your own WGI history, or some phrase like that. There's got to be 10,000 social media pictures that have that on there. And you're like, that's cool. And there's not a DPG logo on. There are, because we want you to maybe take a picture with the DPG logo. But, like the big stuff, we try to not have too much of it like it's hidden in there, but we want you to feel that cool presence. And that one's always been one that I'm super proud of, because it just means so much to students, staff alike.
Yeah, I got to go with Christopher on the WGI tunnel banners, and I've been a part of that project since we started doing it. So watching the evolution since 2022, I think, is the first year we did it, coming right out of COVID, and they had asked us like, hey, we have this space, we really want to make it special. Do you guys want it? And I was like, yeah, we'd be stupid to say no. Of course we want it. So, figuring out that project from the get-go, and, what size things need to be and how we're going to lay things out, that was not really easy. So every year when we go back to do it, it's like, man, how could we do this better? But it's fun every year to see how it turns out. And every year we've done it just a little bit different. The first year we put like big pictures of people from like performers on there, and they were all like, ooh, look, that's me. Yank.
Take this for myself.
But that is one of my favorite projects to do, although putting it up is not really the most fun. Um, Definitely working on that and like having some say in what that area is going to look like. I remember the first time I walked down the tunnel as a performer wasn't even for WGI finals. It was the WGI Mideast regional in 2004 because finals were in San Diego. So they used UD for the regional. And I remember the feeling I got walking down that tunnel the first time. And so being able to be a part of like creating that same feeling for especially those A class kids. A lot of those world class kids, they've walked down it so many times, but those kids that are performing in A class finals, and it's the like Christopher said, the only time they're going to walk down it, like making that more special than you know whatever. I think it says Dayton on one side, and there's some like picture of UD on it, and like we get to make it feel more like home. And then I mean, besides that, I really like working with our sponsor teams personally. I work with quite a few of our sponsor teams, so working with them on their projects. Notable for me, the one that's most special is Juxtaposition because I grew up in that organization. It's still a part of my family. My mom still teaches there. My dad is their business manager. I mean, their directors are two of my best friends. So being able to give what we do to them and help support that organization in the way we do it's really special to me every year to be a part of that.
Very cool. Any horror stories you want to share? You don't have to, but I always ask. Just like, and we will absolutely not name names, but
No, no names. When we're offering advice, it's because we've probably made that mistake in the past or seen that mistake in the past. So we're never trying to ruin your creative vision. We promise. We want to enhance it. So any horror stories that I have are
like
take
the full size football field tarp.
right. Try to take the advice. We will try to come up with a way to get whatever you want done. It just might be a little different than you had originally envisioned. And again, 70 high school kids can't carry off a 100-yard tarp in that you want at 15 ounces either.
My God, I couldn't imagine. Like I can imagine just like what it would cost to ship that, just like weight and freight and all that.
It's ridiculous. When people tell me they want a 15-ounce floor, I'm like, are you sure? Do you really pay that shipping? Because if we go over 800 pounds, it's going to be a lot.
Yep. And that's a lot of drum lines will do it because, and I never thought of it, their floors shrink so much because they don't have the pit on the floor. So they'll go 15 ounces, but their floors, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be this massive. And then all of a sudden their floor is the same price or less than a guard floor. And I'm going, how did they do that? And then you see them wheel it out and you're going, oh yeah, there's an extra 12 feet that they don't have to cover. And we brought in going back just a story that came up. So we had one of the guys that I marched with. He is the guy who runs Drumline AV, the Drumline lot videos and all that. And we brought him in for this year for our color guard weekend to be our videographer and help out with some of that. And he goes, oh, the only time I'd ever been to WGI was when it was merged, and his high school made finals in 2001, I think. And that's the only time he'd ever been to like a guard show. So we're down there for the open class, the first 5 groups. I think we had 4 of the first 5 groups this year at UD Arena. And you could see the stress on his face that no color guard was like freaking out about pulling their floor. And they were hugging each other and walking to set their equipment. And, I think the first group had it was MBI, and I don't think they had any major props. So they really just rolled the floor out. They set their equipment, and he's filming because that was one of our groups. It's one of our great groups. And he's next to me and he goes, why are they not running? Why are they not freaking out? What's going on? And we're like, dude, this is guard, man. Like the freak out happens after, depending on how long their show is. So he's watching, Pride of Cincinnati at the end of the season, giving each other hugs, and they're on the wrong side of the timeline. And he's screaming at him to get off. Well, the next week he's with us, And we had Pulse this year, and they had a couple of scaffoldings, and it wasn't a massive setup for percussion, but he's kind of nudging me and going, look, they're freaking out. They're freaking out. I'm like, well, they're freaking out because they got to plug in 87 different, electronics. The floor, they've been done with the floor for 5 minutes already. They're ready to go. But he was stressing out those first 2 hours of color guard at how not stressed color guard performers were pulling the floors out.
Yeah, I watched percussion championships for the first time ever this year because George Mason's a local school, and I was like, oh, I'll watch them. They're getting ready to go on, and yeah, I was just like, my God, it's like as soon as they leave the tunnel, it's like a all out sprint. Like they are just like running, and I'm like, oh, they got to set up all the electronics, and then as soon as they're done, mad dash off the floor. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, we went down in the tunnel with Rhythm X this year, and we were all just kind of like, we're gonna stay to the side. You will not know us. We will not go. And you'll have Matt's videos from guard, and Matt's like walking like a full lap around as the floor's getting pulled out, and we're laughing at him from our seats, dying. And in percussion, we were like 2 feet away from the corner, with a videographer being like, "Okay, don't move because the pit has to come." And it's a different environment, and wins is a little bit because some of them don't have the pits, but they have much more. Several of the wins had just really extravagant sets this year, and watching them do that was, again, I get stressed for those guys when they're getting out there. It's scary.
All right. So, best way to reach you. So, your website is www.dpgperforms.com.
Yep.
And where are you on socials?
Really, wherever you can find us. DPG performs on most of the social sites. I think Facebook is our only one that is straight digital performance gear, as that was an original. But yeah, check us out on really every and any social media. We're gonna be there and doing a lot of fun stuff for DCI. So head out there for some behind the scenes looks and feels, and at the same time, let us know what you want to see, and we'll do it for you.
Telling you, you need to do a warehouse tour, like this,
There you go.
how it's made video. You need to do because I guarantee people be, especially the floors. Like I just contact How It's Made and see if they'll do it.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you. Love what you do for the community. Appreciate what you're doing for everybody in a positive mention. And Eric, if you need anything,
I want a tour. I'm going to come to Texas. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. This one was a lot of fun for me. As I mentioned many times, I'm obsessed with How It's Made, the TV show. And this was just a cool insight to see how all of these things happen. DCI finals are right around the corner. So once again, good luck to everybody. We'll probably be doing a quick recap of that. So until then, stay safe, stay fabulous. And remember, at the end of the day, it's just flags in a gym.